Hey guys, TrueGreen7 here, and I just want to make sure you guys know you should stay in school, learn something, please. How are Pokemon fans gonna take over the world if we don't know things? So Google stuff, read something, or play Pokemon, because I can sure as hell tell you that it has taught me so many things. There are a lot of legitimate lessons that one can learn from this franchise, and I'm going to go through the top 10 things that I've learned from Pokemon. Keep in mind that we're talking about practical lessons that can be applied to real life. I mean, there are some throwaway lessons that are actually pretty solid. For example, shorts are very comfy and easy to wear, and frying pans do make good drying pans. But the lessons in this video are actually ones that I do think about all the time, and have affected my growth as a human being. I won't include quotes, although Mewtwo and Meowth are true poets, and I'm not going to be talking about vague lessons that every franchise teaches you, like, don't kill people, be nice to others, don't kick babies. Remember that there are many lessons other than the 10 that I will present in this video, but these are the ones I truly believe in. So let's begin. School is in session. Number 10. Good things come in small packages. That is, the lesson that even things that seem to be worthless at first can become extremely useful in the future with proper patience and dedication. Just because something is hard to do at first, you shouldn't give up. This classic piece of knowledge was given to me by experiencing the growth of my weak Pokemon into strong battlers. Almost everybody understands that a Magikarp can become a Gyarados with proper commitment. If you just give up halfway just because something seems tough, like leveling a Magikarp to level 20, you won't get any payoff. In my case, I learned this lesson by training Ralts. It's pretty weak, but eventually turns into the Pokemon I most enjoy using in every Hoenn playthrough. So always keep in mind that you can never judge anything from how it starts out, because it can always get better and even become beneficial, like a strong Pokemon on your team. Number 9. There's nothing like a good rivalry. As a kid, I never understood why a rival was necessary in the real world. I didn't think anybody in the world had rivals like in Pokemon. But now that I look back at my childhood, all my friends were rivals in different aspects, and that offered friendly competition, making us grow as our own characters and hone our skills. For example, I had a best friend who frequently drew like me, and we always tried to one-up each other in our drawing abilities and therefore got better. At the time, I didn't see it as a rivalry until I became a Poketuber. All my Poketuber friends are basically my rivals. A lot of us strive to make our videos better than the last, and most of the time, that motivation comes after seeing each other's videos and wanting to never fall behind in quality. I hate to toot my own horn, although who else is gonna toot my horn? It's my horn. I don't want anybody else using it. But ever since I made it my goal to release high-quality Pokemon videos, the quality of other Pokemon YouTube videos has gotten a little higher, at least in terms of editing. It could possibly be because I set some kind of standard, or I could just be dreaming. In the Pokemon games, we have rivals, and the best ones give us good motivation to grow. Just like our real-life rivals. Blue makes us want to get strong because we want to defeat his snarky butt. And in my opinion, Hugh is a really good rival because he begs us to become strong so we can help him defeat Team Plasma. Sometimes we, the protagonist, create our rivals. For example, Wally wants to become as strong as us, and because he pictures us as his rival, he does end up becoming a very accomplished trainer. So I hope you understand how important a little friendly competition is. Number 8. Preserve your gains. Now when it comes to Pokemon, while it wasn't completely necessary, I was the kind of player that liked to save almost every item I received or bought. I rarely spend my money and never use rare candies because of how rare they are. It's a mentality that has prevailed in my day-to-day life. As a kid, I actually did work for money, and as a person who is literally paying for college right now, I can tell you how important it is that I saved like 99% of the money I made since the age of 10. And it helps. I see now that you shouldn't be completely stingy with your money though. If you have enough and no expenses, it's totally responsible to use it on friends or yourself, but make sure you're saving a majority of it. Now in Pokemon, you acquire money pretty easily, but my desire to save my Pokédollars and items has sparked my knack for saving money in the real world. Number 7. There's usually a reason for things you don't understand. I'm a huge supporter of the movement called Google it. If you don't know something, look it up. If you think something is useless, chances are you might be in for a surprise. Just because you don't know the reason for something, it doesn't mean it sucks. I was taught this lesson by a majority of Pokemon aspects because there is always a reason for a Pokemon's design, for instance, and as I grew up, I realized that non-damaging moves actually have a purpose. As a child, I just thought moves that didn't dwindle my opponent's HP were worthless. I didn't understand that they can turn the tides in battle. Sand attack, growl, I didn't care if my moves didn't kill anybody, but now I see the power of moves are irrelevant. It's what you do with these moves that determines who wins. So once again, if you think something totally sucks, there's a chance that you just don't know enough about it. You think Sigilif looks weird? Chances are you just don't know that it's based on the Nazca lines. I mean, it still looks weird, but now you know why. You think Dugtrio's Alola form is stupid? Maybe you don't know about Pele's hair in Hawaiian culture. I'm not saying you shouldn't have an opinion on a Pokemon. The point is, learn about things, cause ignorance leads to hate. Number 6. Playing games your own way is more satisfying. Pokemon is one of those games in which every player can have a different experience playing the same game, because you choose who you want to go on a journey with. Pokemon is easy enough that you don't have to play the way anybody else is. You can defeat your foes using the Pokemon you want to use. Don't let anybody peer pressure you into thinking that you chose a totally wrong team. Of course, if you're a new player and seem to be having a tough time, it may be wise to start putting together a team that will help you defeat the main game. But if you already know how Pokemon works, there is no reason for anybody to tell you what Pokemon you should be using during a main game campaign. If you want to use all normal types, do it. That sounds fun actually. Don't impose the way you play a game onto others. It's just a game. Number 5. Vocabulary. It's cool to know words, and there are a lot of words in Pokemon that kids don't generally use. I was taught a bunch of words that my friends didn't know. I was always giddy when my teachers would mention a word that was prevalent in the Pokemon games, like foe or elite. Here are a list of words I knew the meaning of because of Pokemon. Root, recoil, effective, pseudo, buffet, paralyze, withdraw, deposit, antidote, adamant, incense, and aura, and a bunch of moves like guillotine, fissure. For some reason, one-hit KO moves were very epic vocabulary words. There was ember, magnitude, agility, glare, bide, flail, pursuit, fake out, uproar, stockpile, facade, endeavor, scald, rend, and astonish. And then abilities like drought, insomnia, intimidate, sturdy, and much more. All of these words were featured in Pokemon, and if you don't know their meanings, then please look them up. They'll give you a better understanding of the game, like for example, the reason why all these moves do what they do. Number 4. Etymology is fun. Etymology is the study of the origin of words and, of course, names. For example, the etymology of the word video comes from the Latin word video, which means I see. Every single word has its etymology, including our names. I recommend you find out the etymology of your name. For example, the name Michael comes from the Hebrew Mikael, which means who is like God. I love learning the origins of names, and it all comes from my love of learning about the etymology of Pokemon names. You understand so much about the world just by knowing the reason every single Pokemon is named as such. And yeah, every Pokemon has reason for its name. I didn't realize that until I was like 11. For example, Darumaka has a name that most Westerners wouldn't understand, until they understood that it's based on Daruma dolls from Japan. Aka is red in Japanese, and it may even be a reference to macaques, a type of monkey. So you see, if you're very interested in knowing the etymology of Darumaka's name, you find out about Daruma dolls, how to say a common color in Japanese, and the existence of a monkey that you may have not known about. Some names even highlight the origin of a Pokemon, and also give you some good vocabulary words, like Wobbuffet, which comes from wobble and buffet. It's based on a punching bag, which constantly wobbles and gets buffeted. To buffet means to repeatedly hit or strike, which is what you do with these things. You get it. We're learning things today. And don't tell me you didn't come here to learn, because it's in the title. Number 3. Learning about the world and its cultures is extremely interesting. Pokemon is from Japan, which has a completely different culture from my own. A lot of the choices that the developers made in the games are far better understood once you learn about Japan and its people. Most of the regions are based on Japanese locations, and a lot of Pokemon are based on Japanese folklore and traditions. It can help you further understand awesome Pokemon like Ninetales, based on the Kyubi no Kitsune. Or it could help you appreciate unpopular Pokemon like Thundurus and Tornadus, based on Raijin and Fujin, who were mischievous thunder and wind deities. But Pokemon doesn't stop at Japanese culture. Almost half of the Pokemon created are based on legends and concepts from around the world, and learning about the origin of all Pokemon through my life as a Poketuber has helped me learn so much about the world. Archeops has taught me about the Archaeopteryx. Porygon has helped demonstrate the concept of subdivision in 3D graphics. Flygon has taught me about antlions. Incineroar has brought the concept of heel wrestlers to my attention. Infernape has taught me about Journey to the West, a very influential Chinese novel, and some Pokemon have helped me learn about other franchises that I like how Greninja can be linked to the tale of Jiraiya the Gallant in Japanese folklore, which literally inspired Jiraiya from Naruto. I love this sort of stuff, and I'm sure it'll lighten up your life as well. Can you tell that I'm sick? Now before we head on to number 2, I want to talk about what could have been the number 2 spot. That is, how Pokemon has changed my outlook on music. Nowadays, I'm a huge fan of music, mostly because of Pokemon tunes, remixes, orchestrations, and soundtracks. I have over 2,000 Pokemon tracks on my phone, and I listen to Pokemon music every single day. Pokemon has taught me to appreciate instrumental music, the melody within songs, and how important the audio is in every form of visual media. But I have made a whole series of videos devoted to my love of Pokemon music, which you can find right here. So I decided to give the number 2 spot to another lesson that Pokemon has taught me, one that I think about all the time. Number 2. The importance of balance and the danger of extremes. Every good piece of media advocates balance. The idea that no good will ever come from taking sides in a specific extreme, unless God reveals himself and asks you to be on his side or something. This idea can be sparked by the notion that you should have a balanced team if you want to overcome any Pokemon obstacle. It's fine to have fun by using an all-Bidoof team, but if you want to be serious about getting good, learn about balance. The theme of balance is huge in my life, and it all stems from the idea that balance is key when achieving one's goal. Don't sacrifice other ideals and ignore truths in order to get to where you want to be, regardless of whether or not in your mind you're doing something good. For example, Team Magma and Aqua are doing what they think is best for the world, but put their ideals to an extreme and neglected the other side of the argument. And that brings us to the number 1 lesson that I learned from Pokemon, a lesson that is my number 1 philosophy. And number 1 is the lesson that it's not always black and white. The generation that I think has the best lesson to teach is Generation 5. Game Freak really tried to instill this reality, that there are never only 2 sides to an argument. Not everything is either good or bad, right or wrong. If you have some kind of disagreement, there isn't always one side that is evil and one side that is absolutely good. You can always compromise. Not everybody is either good or bad. Again, unless you're like facing ISIS or something. Sometimes you have good intentions, but your methods are totally wrong and imposing. And sometimes people do bad things without breaking rules or laws. It just depends on what perspectives you're looking at things and what you value. And that's why you must always look at things from a different perspective, maybe even all of them. If you only listen to one extreme, you can actually do more harm than good. So many characters emphasize this idea that I hold. For example, Clay mentions that there's always room for folks to grow and change, ain't there? And if you only go after what you think is right, you might end up rejecting all thoughts and opinions other than your own. That's mighty dangerous. Elisa tries to teach us that there isn't only one right perspective. You can learn from other people's perspectives. Your opinion and viewpoint is rarely the only right one, and you don't have to conform to the opinions of others either. She says that it's important to keep trying, to learn about the differences between yourself and others, to learn that being different is okay, and you shouldn't worry. And finally, Drayden tells us that it's totally fine to understand the opinions of others and where they're coming from, but once you stop listening to others and only decide that your opinion is right, you cannot be forgiven. When talking to the Team Plasma's 7 sages, he says,
I can empathize with some of what you say, but I cannot forgive the way you reject everything else.
The point is that even if you think you're right, you can't impose your ideals on others. That is, taking things to an extreme. And if you only listen to yourself and don't consider all the other choices as valid, then you're ultimately going to fail. But if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't. Gotta shout out my boy Nicholas for being the top patron. And if you want to help out, check out my Patreon page or the links to my t-shirts. It's all in the description. So subscribe if you haven't and follow me on Twitter and Facebook to keep up. Bye!